Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all in this Regional Columbia Community Alumni Series program, a dialogue with Mr. Jasmine Shah. I also welcome Mr. Jasmine Shah, the speaker for today's program. Over to Dr. Agarwal.
Thank you, Aditya, and welcome to all the students and the alums. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is, we hope, one of many such interactive sessions featuring alumni in India. I'm Ravina Agarwal. I'm the director of the Columbia Global Centers Mumbai, and I hope that all of you know that Columbia has a global center in India, and it's for South Asia, and that we are very committed to building the Columbia community, to fostering partnerships between experts at Columbia and experts in the region in India, and finding common ways of solving the most pressing challenges that are affecting us today. And of course, one such challenge is the global pandemic that we find ourselves in. And it has caused all kinds of disruptions, including in your education and your ability to be on campus. So our attempt and our endeavor in this space has been to begin creating this community for students that is intellectual and engaged, and also shows us what is possible in the region and what is possible in global exchange. So this is an alum series where we invite leaders in their respective fields to share their professional journeys and reflect on current trends in the fields of their expertise. The Global Center has been engaging with alums for several years now. We were founded in Mumbai in 2010. And this is the first time that we've done a dedicated series for students. So we are really committed to you all. As you know, there are several initiatives underway for offering space and offering programmatic support to you. So I'm very, very grateful to our alums who have been so cooperative and so eager to communicate. And one of them is Mr. Jasmine Shah, who is extraordinarily busy, but has been so keen and so generous in offering his time. He's the Vice Chairperson of the Dialogue and Development Commission, a position holding the rank of a minister in the government of the National Capital Territory of Delhi since November 2018. He has wide experience working on urban governance and policy issues, and has been advising the government of the National Capital Territory of Delhi since 2016 on education budget transparency and transport policy reforms. He's also worked on several crucial transport reforms such as the electric vehicle policy, common mobility card, and last mile connectivity initiative, among other projects. Jasmine holds a BTech and MTech degrees in mechanical engineering from IIT Madras, and of course, more importantly to us, a Master's in Public Affairs degree from the School of International and Public Affairs at Columbia University, New York, where he was a Fulbright Nehru Fellow from 2010 to 2012. So I thank my colleague, our Senior Program Officer, Aditya Petwal, for organizing this, and to Brenda Marbanyang for providing all the logistics support, and Manoj Sutihar too. So we'll hear from Jasmine. He'll share his journey, and then I invite all of you, we'll open it up to all of you to interact, to ask him all the questions that might be on your minds. So welcome again, and over to you, Jasmine.
Thank you very much, Ravina, and to the entire team at Columbia Center in India for inviting me. It's always a pleasure when you have to speak to fellow alums and students of your alma mater. There's a lot that I can say, and what I therefore intend to do is share the highlights of my journey over the last 10-15 years. So even before I joined Columbia, as Ravina mentioned, I had done engineering and didn't really start out to be in this space for public change or development, as we call it, until I sort of worked for a few years in the corporate sector. And that was a time, a culmination of many factors, that I realized that what I really wanted to do was be a agent for change in the society. There are many things that are wrong with our country, with our society, and many of them are actually rooted in the way our policies are designed and implemented. You will find fantastic people on the ground, people who really are passionate about, doing a lot of good, but somehow find themselves constrained by the system. And that's a story that you hear again and again. So I set out on a journey, by first working in a non-profit called Janagraha in Bangalore that works in the area of urban governance and citizen participation. Um, Worked with them for 3 years, and really sort of the first, I would say, experience of what does this landscape of governance look like, and is this really something that you can even change? Because I think from the outside, for those, and we've all been there, where we are mere observers, we feel the problem is too big, too complex, and it's easy to be cynical. And sooner or later, majority of the people do turn cynical. But I was not willing to believe that. And a few years with working with a good organization who was at the forefront of trying to advocate for better urban policies, uh, you know showed me that yes, absolutely, change is possible, and what you need is actually for good people to engage with the system. Left to itself, things will not improve. But and especially in a country as complicated, as complex and diverse as India, you have to be patient, and therefore you have to be at it for the long term. And it was then that I decided to go to Columbia to study public administration. I was there for 2 years, from 2010 to 12. Um, and the idea pretty much was that, yes, let's learn from, what, a leading public policy school has to teach. Of course, India's context and India's problems will be very unique. But if you really have to start, uh, you know, going deeper into the issues, it's good to have a perspective of how these problems have been looked at globally, and what is the latest thinking on these issues. So after that, after 2 years of completing my master's in public administration at Columbia, where I did a specialization in urban policy, and I also did a concentration, as we call it, in communication. So many classes at the Columbia Journalism School as well. I joined the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, popularly called as JPAL, in 2013 at MIT. So I had joined their global office at MIT. And JPAL is primarily known for research, the most cutting edge pioneering research using randomized controlled trials to actually be able to say which policies work and which do not work. But I joined in their policy team because many of these research and ideas, fantastic ideas, have been studied by topmost researchers, no less like Nobel laureates. But how do they effectively translate these findings into action? Eventually, all of us are driven who work in the policy community to actually see things happen at scale, to see policies being influenced for the better. But what does that process look like? And that was something that I was most keen to work on. So I joined in the policy team of JPAL, first at MIT for a year, and then at their South Asia office, which is based in Delhi, which is where I am right now. So I moved after a year, 2012 to 13 at MIT. In late 2013 is when I moved to Delhi, which is the South Asia and the biggest office of JPAL. And I sort of set up the policy team for JPAL in South Asia. So from a size of 2 people, we grew to around 17 people, I remember, by around the end of 2016. So a total of 4 years that I was at JPAL. And the policy team essentially was working with around 8 to 10 state governments, as well as the Niti Aayog and the union government in India, to essentially bring this evidence-based approach to designing policies, testing policies rigorously, and ensuring that the right policies which are backed by suitable evidence are the ones that get scaled up. And it was a very interesting experience because you literally with an organization like JPAL, you have all the intellectual power that you could put on any kind of a problem, right? So the challenge was not about um, have we able to generate a solution. In many areas, research of JPAL finds very clear evidence that some things work and some things don't. Yet, to see how policymakers engage with that evidence and whether they value the evidence or not, or whether that decision making happens regardless of the evidence, was a very interesting experience. And there were success stories, but and I've learned a lot during that those many years. Um, but eventually, sort of, you do realize that when it comes to India, and I would say many of sort of democracies, decision-making processes are not so straightforward, and probably rightly so, because there are a lot of other factors, including budgetary constraints and priorities by variety of societal stakeholders that come into the picture when policies are designed, or which policies get prioritized now versus future gets decided. And that was around the time I realized, and I think this was a big important transition in my own professional journey, where I realized that perhaps only engaging on the technical design of policies wasn't sufficient. When you do want a substantial change in the way our governments function or what policies get implemented, then you also have to engage with the politics of governance, right? So it's not just policy, but it's also the politics that really matters. And where is the political will to really make change happen? So you can have the best ideas, like and this is something that has been cited in the Nobel citation for Professor Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo, which is their work that they have done in India, specifically with this NGO Pratham, on finding out how to improve learning outcomes in primary education. We have one of the most shameful records in India, that half of our class 5 students cannot read class 2 texts. So we have a huge learning deficit when it comes to foundational learning, basic reading your textbooks, doing simple mathematical problems. And this has been the case year after year. In fact, the scenario has even worsened over the years. So clearly it's a big problem. And research of JPAL has shown one or two models really being effective at addressing this problem. Still, over 10 years, you're not seeing a major government initiative or states after state adopting this kind of high quality programs. And why is that so? And uh, you know at least my experience at that point in time, when I transitioned out of JPAL and joined a particular government, earlier as a advisor to the technical advisor or a policy advisor to the government, and later I transitioned to this present role, which is heading the think tank of Delhi government. It's called the Dialogue and Development Commission of Delhi. Was to realize that um, here was a government, the Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi, which had the political will to transform areas which have not been really sort of addressed or focused upon by the governments before. I mean, maybe in Delhi or anywhere in the country, which is areas like education and health. Most of the times you see there are other issues that dominate politics, elections, or the discourse of governments, the day-to-day discourse of governments. Interestingly, in 2015, when the Aam Aadmi Party formed the government in Delhi, one of the first things that they did is to announce that we are going to double the education budget. In 1 year, just double the education budget. I had never heard about any government making an announcement of this nature. You normally hear, bullet trains are being announced, you hear big flyovers are being announced. When did you last hear a government saying that let's double the education budget? So that really did catch my attention. And, many of us who've been sort of working in this space for a long time, that here's a government that is willing to put their money where their mouth is, literally. And, over the those who have followed the work of the Delhi government over the last few years would have noticed that education has been the plank on which this government has been working continuously over the last 5 years. And in 2015, and I've been sort of, I would say, part of the team which has worked on some of the problems. This is the work led by the CM and the Deputy Chief Minister, Mr. Manish Sisodia, who's also the Education Minister of Delhi. And I've engaged on a few areas of this journey of transforming education as a complete sector in Delhi. But what we have seen that is within a span of 5 years, in 2015, when this government came to power, there was a government. I mean, the status was such similar to any other government schooling system. We still have photographs from 2015 which show how the hallways of Delhi government schools were, the plaster was peeling off, there were cobwebs in the corners, toilets were stinking, and the furniture was really there, not there. So any typical sort of a dysfunctional government schooling system which is there in the length and breadth of the country. And today, if you see the pictures of Delhi government schools, it tells a different story altogether. The fact that today there is reverse migration happening in Delhi's government schooling system is a testimony to the change that has happened in the last 5 years. And for the last 3 years consistently, Delhi's government schools are performing better than the private schools in terms of class 12th results. So all of this, I will not get into many technical things that went into this transformation, but I think the important point here was, and for in my own journey, what really sort of drives you and keeps you at it is to really sort of find this magical combination of a government that has the political will to work on issues that may not be so rewarding electorally on the face of it. It's also credit that this government has come back to power for a second term with an overwhelming mandate, because it's also decided to take the work of education and work on healthcare back to the people, at the end of its term. And to be a part of this journey has been extremely rewarding, and sort of a vindication for the belief that policy changes and working in this space of trying to change governance is, yes, it is about technical fixes. It is about trying to find what the right solutions are. And especially my years with JPAL, I mean, the amount of effort and time many researchers are putting on the ground is commendable to really find out what the right solutions are. If you want to improve outcomes of our public hospitals, if you want to improve the educational outcomes in our schools or colleges, then what are amongst the several policy options, which are the ones that you would really focus on? It takes a lot of time and effort and really good work on the ground to figure those answers out. But many of those answers are known, right? I mean, there's a lot of work people have already put in, but still you see very little of that translating into actual policies and then implementation on the ground. And this entire sort of gap, I would attribute it to the sheer lack of political will that we see across the length and breadth of this country. I'm sure in pockets, Delhi is not the only pocket. In pockets elsewhere in the country also, you would find examples of such political will existing. And it's all the more rewarding when you are able to put, whatever ideas and solutions you have in mind, combine that with the political will of a government that is willing to put the time, effort, resources. And this is also open to ideas, because it's not always the case that people who want to do everything are open to ideas or open to accepting that, I may not have the best ideas, and therefore let's create teams of people, organizations that we can work with, so that we really use this opportunity and make the best out of it. And this is what sort of has been the most defining part, I would say, of my journey in the last 4 years that I've been with the Delhi government. First 2 years, as I said, as an advisor, and the last 2 years in this position as Vice Chairperson of Dialogue and Development Commission. And, while I was focusing on a few sectors earlier, being in this kind of a position in the government also requires you to be a jack of all trades, in the sense of not really have the luxury of digging too deep into any specific policy problem. But I've also realized that that's not necessarily a handicap, because many of these problems have been thought about deeply, and there are brilliant organizations and individuals who are working on these problems, across the country, across the world. What was lacking is somebody in a government actually willing to collaborate with these individuals and organizations. And just like, I received a very warm welcome when I wanted to share something, some of my experiences and expertise with the Delhi government. It's sort of a motto for us. Even as a part of Delhi government, every single day uh, is spent, talking to a range of organizations and individuals who are very passionate, who are very driven, and have a lot of good ideas, and providing them a platform and an opportunity to work together with the government in implementing, changes across sectors, be it urban policy issues in health, be it in environment, be it in transport, be it in sector after sector. This has been my experience. What I'll also share a little bit is, because we are in the peak of the pollution, we're entering into the pollution season in Delhi. I know some of you may be interested in the work that is happening on environment. And that's also one of the areas that I focus on personally in my current capacity. So environment has been, of course, one of the most complex and most difficult challenges to solve. Um, Also because not all the pollution that, the pollution is a North India problem primarily. I would say many of our cities also face from that problem. But the entire North India, the Indo-Gangetic Plain, is a wide airshed, and there are many factors that affect it. And especially the months of October and November is when you have the big problem of crop stubble burning. And then there are vehicular pollution, there are coal plants, and there are several local factors as well. And Delhi government is very famously known for the odd even traffic rationing scheme, and that is something that I have seen the implementation of in the last couple of years. But more than that, there have also been some very long-term initiatives that this government has taken. We've shut down a couple of our thermal power plants. Delhi today has no thermal power plants that are operating and polluting Delhi from within. Yes, we do have a lot of problem of polluting plants around Delhi, and that is where, that's when you realize that the problem of environment is so large at an extent that political will of just one government doesn't help. You will need political will across governments in northern India and at the central level to find a solution, and really approach this as a regional or a national kind of an issue, rather than work on it at the local level. But there's a lot that is being done. That is something we are sort of working on in the coming few months. A very brief sort of summary of kind of things we are doing. I talked about crop stubble burning, and we recently, again, a great example of a government just willing to work with researchers or willing to work with experts outside. So we collaborated with the Indian Agricultural Research Institute at Pusa. It's the leading agricultural research institute in India, and they had devised a biodecomposer that helps in aggravated or quick decomposition of the crop stubble. So rather than decomposing over 1.5 to 2 months, it actually decomposes in 15 to 20 days. And so the farmers don't have to burn their crop stubble. It actually becomes manure the once it decomposes. So it was a really good, cheap, effective, scalable solution. And we've decided to partner with them. Of course, Delhi has a very small fraction of our land as fields in outer Delhi. But we said that all the fields that generate crop stubble in Delhi, we will implement this solution. This is the first year. We are very excited. It's sort of a proof of concept. And if it works, then I think it could be scaled up in the rest of the country. Similarly, today our chief minister launched a campaign to really get the people of Delhi to switch off, something as simple as that, which is to switch off your vehicles at red lights. And we have done calculations to show that this could actually reduce, a simple act like this could reduce 15% of your vehicular pollution. and this is something which I worked very closely on also, we've recently announced an electric vehicle policy in Delhi, and it is something that we are very aggressively pushing, which is, if you really have to address environment and various sources of environment, then you have to plan sector by sector. So vehicular pollution is one sector within environment, and go after both short term and long term. Short term, we know that when there are peak episodes of pollution, you implement odd even. But for the long term problem of vehicular pollution, we are betting on public transport. As many people actually use, you have a good, efficient, affordable public transport. That's great. Second, you have more and more electric vehicles on the street. And this is something that we recently launched, and this is something that I'm part of the implementation team of. So again, I could go on and on. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, but personally for me, it's every day is fun, because as I say, it's an opportunity. It's one of the rare opportunities. I've worked with many governments, but it's a rare opportunity where you actually find political will never to be a constraint. You find the ability for all, everybody who wishes to engage with the government to come up with better ideas and solutions, that to be the constraint. And when that happens, I think you really do have a great opportunity. So I'm really happy to sort of be here, share some of my experiences.
Thank you so much, Jasmine, for sharing, your journey and your motivation for being part of the government, and making the change from that institution versus, being in the civil society or corporate sector. So it's very interesting to hear about that. And thank you very much, Jasmine. And on behalf of my team and the students,
it's my absolute pleasure to be here. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you.